This is Philipp Plein No Limits Gold, and I believe this is the latest flanker in the No Limits line. I didn't even realize that No Limits Gold was released last year. This completely went under my radar, but I bought it earlier this year when I saw it because I was so curious about it. Now, I don't know much about the brand, but from what I've seen, I'm not into their designs and they don't seem to have a lot of fragrances. My introduction to the brand was their leather-focused fragrance No Limits, which I know a lot of people disliked, but I quite enjoyed it. I believe the original No Limits was created by Alberto Marias, and he's behind this one as well. And this is the first in the No Limits line that's not focused on leather. So I bought No Limits Gold some time ago. I've been wearing it quite a bit and I want to share my thoughts on it. Let's take a look at the notes. So we have grapefruit, bergamot, ginger, orange blossom, elemi, geranium, patchouli, amberwood and benzoin. So what does No Limits Gold smell like? The opening is a big dose of citrusy freshness, which to me is primarily grapefruit with a bit of bergamot. I like it, and I think that if you enjoy grapefruit in fragrances, then you most likely enjoy the opening. There's this spicy, sort of a creamy smooth and almost vanillic thing going on as well, which I think could be the benzoin doing its thing, and it's nice for sure. I'm getting this vibe of familiarity here, so it might not be 100% unique, but it sure smells good, and it smells good in a very mass appealing way. So the opening citrusy freshness with grapefruit at the front, and this creamy, spicy, almost vanillic thing in the background. That initial grapefruit does not last long though, at least not on me. And as it heads into the mids, it changes from being primarily sort of a grapefruity fresh to being more citrusy fresh. And it's also a bit aromatic, and that creaminess from the opening is even stronger by now. The mids is almost split into two sort of phases, and I actually enjoy the very initial opening more than the first part of the mids, simply because of the grapefruit. The second phase of the mids is a lot better than the first, as it gets even more sort of a creamy smooth with a soft floral touch to it. At this point it's mostly a mix of slightly sweet, buttery creaminess with hints of vanilla, a bit of citrusy freshness and a touch of aromatics and florals. I can't exactly pinpoint where it comes from, but there's this almost tropical, or at least sort of a summery vibe to the opening and the mids. As it heads into the dry down, it starts to get less fresh, more woody, and that buttery sweet creaminess gives way to quite a prominent dose of amberiness. The full dry down to me is mostly woody and quite ambery, with almost none of the freshness from the opening and the mids, with a bit of sort of a creamy sweetness in the background. My initial impression of the dry down was that it smelled nice, but was a bit sort of a flat. But the more I worn it, the more I think it smells quite amazing. It doesn't feel like they've created something truly unique here, but this smells really good. I guess what I think sets it apart, at least like a little bit, is that fantastic woody and ambery dry down. I actually wish more fragrances would be released that are sort of woody and ambery like this. So before I move on to performance, usage and all, I do want to mention that this is very different compared to the original, and it's also very different compared to the No Limits Super Fresh. This really has nothing to do with any of those two. So how do I feel when I wear No Limits Gold? This gives me a fun, casual, playful and definitely sexy vibe more than anything else. So what about compliments and reactions from others? I've received a few "you smell good" comments, all of them with quite a bit of sprays. The scent is definitely a compliment getting one. Just make sure you spray it in a way that people actually can get a whiff of it. So what about the performance? This, at least on my skin, gives me a decent scent cloud with good longevity. I do need to spray more to get the sort of a scent cloud that I usually go with. On my skin it does have intense projection, but one with limited reach. So people can definitely pick up on it, but in my experience when they are about an arm's length or so away from you. In other words, it's not a room filler. But if you are in a sort of a normal conversation range, people should pick up on it. As an example, No Limits sprayed on this, and this being on the table, I can definitely pick up on it quite strongly. But it doesn't fill up the entire space. So I do recommend spraying more with this if you want a bigger scent cloud that more people can get a whiff of. I initially thought that the longevity was weak, but the more I worn it, the more I realized it's actually quite good. I rarely spray on my clothes, but I happened to get some of this on my shirt, and it lasted well over 24 hours. It doesn't last as long on skin, but I think the longevity is really good. So when should you use No Limits Gold? No Limits Gold is primarily a fresh and slightly sweet scent in the opening through to the mids, and a woody and ambery scent in the dry down. And I do not think this is an overly intense, overly sweet, overly deep, or overly heavy kind of scent in any way. I feel it works throughout the year for sure, and I'm definitely going to use it throughout the year. Scent-wise, for occasions, I do think that you can use this for pretty much any occasion, but definitely date nights because of its sort of a playful and quite flirty scent. But like always, use whatever you want whenever it makes you feel good. So who's this fragrance for? The sort of a baseline here is that you should enjoy grapefruit and citrusy fresh openings, because this has that. Otherwise, you probably won't enjoy the opening. If you also enjoy woody and ambery scents that are not sort of a too deep or too heavy, then this might be for you. There's a floral side to it as well. To me, that side is quite soft, but I think you should be aware of it. Stay away if you only buy beast mode fragrances, because while I do think that the performance is good, I don't think this is beast mode. Let's talk about price. I paid about 80 bucks for 90 ml. And I've since seen this cheaper than that. Nowadays I see the original No Limits for about 50 to 60 bucks for 90 ml, and I think this will probably end up on the same sort of a price point as that. If you are interested in No Limits Gold, either wait a bit until the price drops, or have a look around on sort of a different discounters to see if you can find a good price on it. Comparing this to a lot of 2023 and 2024 releases, the price is definitely a lot more affordable. So how am I going to rate Philipp Plein No Limits Gold? So the reason why this review took quite some time for me to make was because this fragrance kept growing on me. I thought I was ready to do a review with weeks ago, but I kept revising my rating of it. No Limits Gold went from an initial like to something I really liked to something a bit more than that. Not sure if it needed a bit of maceration, or if it was just me who needed some time to get a proper feel for it. I really like it, especially the mids and that fantastic dry down. And even though that fantastic dry down has some similarities to something else I already have, I think it's gorgeous. Scent-wise, it's a compliment getter, and it's definitely a sexy scent most people will enjoy getting a whiff of. I think Alberto Morillas did a good job on No Limits Gold, and I'm going to give No Limits Gold 8.5. And I actually enjoy this more than the original No Limits, and I also think they are very, very different. I think No Limits Gold will end up being an underrated scent simply because of the hate that seems to exist for the brand. I don't care about the brand, I only care about the juice. I don't even care about the bottle, and the juice is really good. If this follows the same sort of a pricing path of the original, in that it will become quite affordable on discounters, then I think No Limits Gold will be a great deal for sure. So what would have made me rate it higher? I doubt anyone from Philipp Plein is watching this, but if you are, bring out an extreme parfum, elixir, whatever you want to call it. Make it like this, because the core scent is really good, but amp it up. Amp up the performance even more and make it radiate even more. I think the mids is so good and so smooth, so that part doesn't need to change that much. But for a flanker, maybe add a bit more vanilla and increase its sweetness in the dry down. The full dry down is a really nice one, but definitely add a spin to it in a flanker. And maybe take the dry down to a more fruity direction with the woodiness and amberiness. Maybe with something like cherry, or even maybe go for something like a bit of chocolate in the dry down. I would love to know how you feel about Philipp Plein No Limits Gold, and how you would rate it from 1 to 10, so make sure you comment. Like this video, I really appreciate it. Make sure you hit that subscribe, make sure you check out the videos over there, and I'll see you in the next one.